Hello, Be Awesome at FM listeners. Man, oh man, what a hiatus this has been. And Paul and I have been anything but resting. But we are back after 4 months, I guess, of not being on the podcast. And we're going to fill you in with everything that's been going on and what we're thinking and all that fun stuff. But Paul, I think that's a new backdrop. I don't think I've ever seen. Yeah,
This is my exiled backdrop. When I have grandchildren in the house, I get exiled to the top floor.
I was gonna say,
and I'm in the guest bedroom.
Yeah, you're in like a day bed or something.
Yeah, I'm on the grandkids' day bed. They're downstairs going in the pool, and they're in and out of the kitchen, and they're eating, and I'm up here sitting on the day bed in the attic.
It's and as it should be.
As it should be, yes.
Yeah, that's why I don't have an attic, because I don't have I don't want an exile room. But welcome back, my friend. It's not welcome back for me and you. We talk every day, but welcome back to the podcast. It's been a good couple of months.
Yeah, we've got around in the past few months. Places like Missouri and New Brunswick and Maine and
New Jersey. Yeah,
New Jersey, all around.
Yeah. Well, I think let's just kind of talk it out as far as what we've been seeing in the industry. And in our travels, because it's been, I think, you and I talk about this one-on-one all the time. It's really interesting, scary, complicated, confusing. I mean, there's a lot going on when it comes to the service industry right now, and it's not just lack of staff. It's keeping the staff that you have motivated. It's getting people engaged. It's finding a sense of urgency. Getting people to feel a sense of purpose. I mean, we go on and on, right? So,
my comment is always that I think we've lost the service in the service industry, and that's what we do in our jobs. In schools and facilities, we are the service people. So when we don't see the service coming back to us, it's really obvious. You heard the story. One of my pet peeves was renting a car in Tampa.
Yeah.
I rented a car from Hertz. I picked up the vehicle. It was dirty. There was stirrers and coffee stirrers in the console. And when I went to check out of the parking lot, the woman asked me, "Is everything okay with the car?" And I said, "No." I said, "It's dirty, and it's the stirrers and inside and the back of the car's got all dirt all." And she said, "Yeah, I get that a lot."
Yeah.
And that was her response. And she said, "Well, I already put down the barricade, so if you need to, you're gonna have to go all the way around and go to the office if you want to get another car."
And what's crazy is that's acceptable,
right?
That's the acceptable answer right now, and I think that's one of the things that's really, for me, I always look for kind of like the little ray of light somewhere, and there are organizations that are it's not just service in the service industry. It's customer service in every industry, but it's customer service in the service industry, which I think is one of the things that many are not focusing on. Hey, there still are supply chain issues. They're not as bad as they were during COVID. We do have labor shortage issues. We do have challenges of getting all the work done in the day. But one of the things that we have control over is how we present and how we provide the best possible service. And we have to help people deliver that message better, first and foremost. And we also have to figure out how to get mediocrity to not be okay.
Yeah. I mean, going back, I knew I was going to get off on this tangent of the rent-a-car thing.
Yeah, so
I did a little research before I got on. Back in 1963, Avis ran their campaign, "We're number 2, so we try harder."
Yep.
I don't know if you remember that.
They
went from losing $3.2 million a year to plus $1.2 million with that campaign alone.
Yeah.
Just by saying we try harder. And in 1968, Hertz made the comment, "Avis may have to choose a new campaign because they're now number 1."
Wow.
So it's like, how about that, right?
Yeah.
Back when people used to try. And yeah, right. It's easy to blame the pandemic. I know the world went through a lot.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff I can't hang it on the pandemic. We're 2 years past it. It was a horrible thing to go through for so many people. I work for several communities and schools and towns, and I've got two communities that are not setting their security alarms on the building, and their reasoning is because people were stressed from COVID.
Right.
And we're 2 years past that. It's time to secure your building. People should be aware enough to be able to put four numbers in a keypad and secure the building so that it's safe at night. I'm not buying that COVID response anymore.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the stuff was before COVID, right? I think a lot of the feelings, and I think that it was just that we had something monumental to attribute it to,
Right.
right? And I think that that's, and I don't want to say that it's. I mean, we've all went through something, all of
Yep.
us went through it differently, but um, you're right. We got to get back. We got to get back to basics. We got to get back to brass tacks at getting stuff done, doing it the right way, getting people engaged. The thing that I noticed in the last 5 months, and it's been a challenge, is just that feeling of sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
one of the reasons why we've been offline is I got more jobs than I have fingers. I feel like, between my two companies, Be Awesome and K-12 Pros, and then this rocket ship I'm on, with Operations Hero. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. And we added 500 new schools and universities in the last year, but it didn't come with a lot more work than it was historically, getting people on the phone, getting people engaged. The people that we got wildly engaged and moving along, but just the people that had some interest or whatever, it was just like, yep, there's some other pressing thing that happens, and people are just going in 87 different directions. It's really kind of weird.
And I think, to your credit, I mean, I obviously know what you do, and I know the Operations Heroes people well. It's that all around you're showing that you care,
Yeah.
and that you want to do the right thing, and you're not going to accept, oh well,
Yeah.
people are just happy that someone came to work nowadays.
Right.
It's like, we're just happy you're here, even if you drop the food on my lap in the restaurant. I'm just happy you're here. Thank you for dropping that.
Well, yeah, I literally just got off the phone with a prospective new client, and we were talking, and I just said, "Hey, here's my cell phone. You call with whatever you need, anytime you need it. Your business manager, whoever, give my phone number out. Let's work together and let's get through this, so that you guys are successful." And it was a breath of fresh air. You felt the relief on the phone, and that's one of the things, that I think is that I'm sensing is, vendor relationship with facility professionals, specifically in schools. It used to be intertwined. Like, you didn't want to use the word partner, but hey, look, you had something go wrong that had the word glass in it. You were calling Joey P at Suburban, right?
Right.
You had something that went wrong, with software. You're calling Josh Peach. You have something wrong that's going wrong with your cleaning supplies or your auto scrubbers. You're calling Hilliard, right? You had these people that were partners, and now the market has become so flooded with companies that are just trying to get a piece of the pie and not trying to take care of you to celebrate with cake. It's like, I get it, I guess, but
And I think that's why we go back to those companies like the ones you just mentioned that we know are there, and they've been there through the whole event for us. They've been people to lean on and people to partner with, if that's the right word. I know.
Yeah.
And it's, you go back to that because those are the people that work for you.
Yeah. I mean, you retired 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's coming up on 5 pretty quick.
Yeah. That's hard to believe, man. Like, seriously, like, think about that. Like, we did your retirement night, went out to dinner and went to the Bruins game.
Yep.
That cold January Eve.
Yeah.
What do you think about, when you're thinking back about the, kind of the last 5 years, and you're able to be, prior to retirement? I mean, you've always been more Paul outspoken. You've never kind of held back as far as your feelings, thoughts, ideas, and whatnot. But now that you've been retired for 5 years, and you're doing more than you did when you were retired. What are you thinking about? Like, what are you seeing as far as, I had this question earlier today was like, how do we get younger people more involved? This is the age old question that we're asking. Um, what what is it if Paul were able to come back and be the total galactic director of facility supervisor for all schools USA? What are 3 or 4 selling points that you would say are reasons why a young person should come to school? I just put you on the spot with this. I just thought
Yeah,
of it.
that's what we do.
Yeah, but like no, but I mean, look, when I talk to people in your age group, my age group, about why they became a facility director, right? Today, if you're 45 to 65 and you're a facility director in schools, I was a custodian or technician and I went up through the ranks and here I am.
Yeah.
I was in private sector and I lost my job. I was in private sector and my kids were growing up and I wanted to support the schools that they go to. Or a handful of them said that they went to school and they wanted to become a director of facilities and they love public education. There weren't a lot of hooks. There weren't like a lot of feel good heart hooks, right? Which that's what today people are working for. They're working for fulfillment. They're not working for the fortune. They're not working for the fame. They're working for the fulfillment, and it's different. So, all your observations, if you were to try to promote to young facility professionals that could go work at TD Garden or Fenway Park or Biomed or any of these other places, why should they come and work for schools?
I think we need to rebrand, repackage what we're doing. We need to think out of the box. For so long, it's been, 6:30 to 3:30, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. And I think now with the newer generation coming on and, technology has played, Kenny Wertz, our good friend Kenny Wertz and I, we do a talk on this and the generational differences. And that when we came out of COVID, everyone was saying the same thing, including me.
Yeah.
Where did everybody go? There's a help wanted sign in every window. Did everybody go home to mom and stay there? Did maybe at the beginning they did, very beginning of COVID ending. But again, with the little research and our talk that we do, unemployment in the country is at 3.4.
Yeah.
That's incredibly low. So people are working. In Massachusetts, it's 2.3.
Right.
So people are working. They're just not coming to work for us. They're not coming to work in our industry. And I think it's because we haven't changed. I think we need to think about changing in our industry and how we do the work. It's a needed job. We need to clean the schools for the kids. Yeah. You go back to the COVID thing. We didn't stay home. You can't clean from home.
Right.
A lot of people work from home. Custodians can't work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that we had at the time, they did it. They hunkered down and did it. So now, how do we change in this new world? The kids, the younger generation, they want to work.
Yeah.
But they don't want to come to work. We need to make it more attractive on our end.
Yeah.
They don't see the benefits part. I mean, and I didn't see it either. I came into public work later in life. And next thing I know, I'm retiring with a nice retirement package and benefits.
Yeah.
But the first few years, it took a few years to realize that, wow, here I am. I mean, everyone knows that I'm a hunter. Here I am coming from private sector where I had my own business to working for the public. And in October, I can go sit in a tree with my bow and I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
Because I have, paid time off. I got plenty of PTO stacked up.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we got to look at. And I really think that changing shifts, changing number of work days, working maybe a Monday through Thursday shift, longer days, and then, shifting guys, some work Tuesday through Friday. I don't know. I think we need to start thinking out of the box.
Yeah. Well, you are also a rarity where, people were building up their PTO time for their retirement. It's like you should write a book, how do you live your life by More Paul? Like seriously, like I'm saying this in all sincerity, you've kind of figured out the formula, right? There's a lot of people that were in your position that did 25 and 30 years that have 300 plus days accumulated. And they say, well, I could take my last year off. Right. which is the absolute worst. I find that to be the worst possible scenario. Like if you have, I tell people this. People remember two things. They remember the beginning and they remember the end. Most of the middle stuff, it's foggy, right? There's stuff that happens. Like I can tell you the first time that I met you. Yeah. I can tell you the first year of meeting you and spending time with you and Man on Deck and all that other stuff. 2004, 2005. I can tell you all that stuff. And if everything were to end today, I could tell you the last 6 months. But guess what? There's 19 years in between.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch in there.
There was a whole bunch of stuff. And we pulled out some work on our trip to Canada last month with stories, right? But it took some work. So you remember the beginning, you remember the end, and people build up this time and they go, I'm not going to use my PTO time. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to save it for retirement. So my last year I can take a ride. And the reality is that was something that's kind of set from previous generations, right? A lot of people were doing that, or they could cash out on it.
Yeah.
And the important thing that people need to do right now is they need to take time, not too much time, not abuse the time, but hey, you need a mental health day, take a mental health day. You need to sit up in a tree stand in New York and, look at deer, because I don't shoot deer. Go do that. You want to spend a day in the attic with your grandkids downstairs and go spend time with them in the afternoon after the podcast, you go do that. But do it the right way and promote it the right way. And I think that that's something that is definitely not promoted is the allotted PTO and free time that you get working in the public sector, often overlooked and definitely not talked about. And it's because most people don't. The people that should take advantage of it don't.
Right.
And the people that do take advantage of it like more than they should.
And you got to think about that with the younger people that are coming to your workforce, and that they look at the world different than I did.
Yep.
My father worked 6 days a week. I worked 6 days a week when I was younger. Yep. There was no Saturday football games because I was working as an electrician with my dad on day number 6 on Saturday. And that was ingrained in me, but that's a different generation. You can't expect now to do that with this next generation. They're just, everybody's changed. But, getting back to that, where did everybody go? And these kids today don't want to work, is the comment we heard. Kenny and I put together a slide. Let me rephrase that. Kenny put together a slide. He's the producer. I'm the front man. Mm-hmm. He put together a slide that goes back to like 1850, and it's a bunch of headlines every 20 years or so, and they all said the same thing. Yeah. Nobody wants to work anymore. This younger generation doesn't want, all the way up to current day.
Yeah.
So in the end, we realized that the younger people coming on didn't change. We did.
Yeah.
It's always been the same. Yeah.
History repeats itself.
Yeah, over and over.
It just looks a little bit different.
I don't want to hear that millennials don't want to work. I had plenty of millennials that worked for me, and they were fine.
Yep.
They come at it different. They look at it different. They were brought up. I think technology is what did it for the last two generations, Gen X's and the millennials.
Well, I just told you before we got on, I just got done with a fairly positive doctor's appointment, and I had the nurse that was doing my EKG. We got to talking, and we're talking about kids, and her kids are 16 to 25 or 15 to 25 in the age, and she was talking about how different the 15-year-old is from the 25-year-old. And I said, well, let's step back for a second. Your 25-year-old was born when computer labs were just coming out and Windows 97 was released.
Yeah.
But your 15-year-old was born when the second iteration of the iPhone was released. That 10-year gap had a dramatic shift in how we did things, how we saw things, how we found things. We're cleaning out our basement still from, our basement is basically has artifacts from my family's, being here since 1991. I bought my parents' house and a lot of stuff didn't get moved out. I found this thing called encyclopedias.
Remember the encyclopedia?
Yeah, I found this. I'm like, is this worth something? And it's like, no, it's not. Nobody's going to want this paper. That's just it's dead on arrival with the expansion of today. But I mean, up until the 90s, you got a lot of your information from your yearly release and update of the encyclopedias. Now Wikipedia can be updated instantaneously.
Yeah.
It's just a much faster, broader world that we live in,
Yeah.
which is
When I was going to Wentworth Institute to get a construction degree, I was going to be a construction foreman. I failed 2 classes. Now, not many people tell you about their failures, right? But you know me.
I do.
I failed 2 classes. One was computer science.
Yep.
And that was one where we had to book time in a computer lab and do the punch cards. They were like an extended version of an index card, and you'd punch holes in it to make the computer do what you wanted. The computer was the size of the classroom, so it was
the Whopper from War Games.
It was 16 feet up.
Yeah,
and you would punch the cards and you'd stack them in this little thing, and it would take them. And it's like, I failed that class and I failed calculus. And I said, those are 2 subjects that I will never use in the construction field.
Yep.
Right. All right. I went 50%. I've never used calculus in the construction field.
Yep.
But I said, computers, when would we ever use a computer in construction?
Yeah.
I got a tape measure and a pencil, and I got a T-square, and I'm all set.
Yeah. Man, my phone's got all that now.
Yeah. I do it on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I bought my way out of calculus, just, full disclosure. I had a Cuban professor, and I made an appointment in his office, and I brought him a box of cigars, and I said to him, let's make a deal. I said, you pass me with the C, and I'll promise I'll never try to use calculus in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know where to get the cigars.
Yeah. So that's it. We made the deal, and we were good.
I didn't know that you had access to Cuban cigars. I mean, we had that issue, and we can talk about it in Canada. They apparently don't have them anymore, but
yeah. Well, I'm talking about 1973. There was some more easier access. Well, maybe I knew different people then too.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's talk about us, right? Let's get into us. Let's get into the fun stuff. Let's talk about our travels and because there's been a lot of awesome stuff. Like we talked about the scary stuff, the things that keep us up at night, finding the people to provide the service, the fact that there isn't service. But when we think about this year, especially after March, we've had some pretty good experiences.
You want to talk about buying Canadian beef?
We could talk about, we can get into that. That's our most recent one. Yeah. But no, let's go back. Let's start. I mean, our trip to Kansas City.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. Like that was so the reason, full disclosure, the reason why we've been off the podcast since March is we have been extremely busy, both of us, in our separate lives and in our combined lives, to just sit down and to get on a podcast and to just talk and to get guests, because it's been hard to get people nailed down for services and stuff we provide. It's even harder to get people that want to come on the podcast and talk about what's going on in their world. It's been a lot of people just kind of hunkering down and trying to get stuff done. And with the new budget year coming up on June 30th, we didn't want to be pests. But we've been straight out. I've come up with some really bad ideas for good trips, and they've all gone smashingly well. And Paul's come along for the ride on a number of them. But first and foremost, I don't know that we talked about New Jersey. We had Keith on for New Jersey. You didn't go to New Jersey, but I did. New Jersey School Building and Grounds Association, massive shout out. They just, if you are listening to this and you are in a building and grounds association and you aren't connected with Keith Gourlay, you got to connect with him. I mean, the guy is an absolute rock star, committed to the success of his members, committed to the success of the schools in New Jersey, and he's committed to the success of schools around the country. He's got a pretty strong network, but an amazing event. I had the honor to do their opening keynote. Joe Sanfilippo and Tom Chiz from Armored One were the other 2 keynotes that they had there, but I was able to do the keynote on Sunday night. They must have had 700 people there. They just knocked it straight out of the park. And the energy there was, I mean, just, you just feel it. You've been there a number of times,
and it's sustainable. They do it year after year after year.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next thing is, that event in March it's CEU credits, it's CEFM certified facility directors. It's the leadership in the state. I had the honor to be asked, Glenn Miller in Mount Olive Township, New Jersey, who we had talked to the year prior to, and we said we had to get out there and do a tour. I beat you to it. I got to do a tour last week, and I mean, this high school, this is the stuff that I look for, that I get that energy, that when I see this bad stuff and this negative stuff and this concerning stuff, I look and find those bright spots. And Mount Olive and Glenn and his team are it. I mean, they have 100,000 square foot under roof inflatable dome indoor soccer field. They've got a turtle rehabilitation center for the Northeast, where they take in injured and hurt turtles in the high school, rehabilitate them, and put them out into the wild. Students, I think they have the #1 robotics program in the world, and all of this stuff is done by a public school district, in New Jersey. And when you talk about, cleanliness and everything else, and here's the other thing, I meant to tell you this, I didn't tell you this, because Eric Hammerdale was the first facility director that I saw on a plaque for a building of schools, construction of school or renovation of a school. He was the first facility director that I saw. Remember, we saw his name on the placard there in Morris Union. Well, we were walking the high school at Mount Olive, 500,000 square feet, 1,200 students. I mean, they got a business class that has a running ticker wall with all the stock market stuff going on, like a legit, like you think you're in the New York Stock Exchange kind of space. I mean, so thoughtful, makerspace, all the stuff. And I walked by the plaque, and there was Glenn's name, with the superintendent and the city and the school committee and everything else right there front and center. And I said, that's pretty cool. And he smiled ear to ear, and he says, this school does a great job of recognizing our staff, our team, and the things that we do and our involvement. I thought that was amazing. But I was there for 400 custodians. And this is one of the things that I was amazed at. I talked to Keith this morning about this, a Toolbox Tuesday. They do 3 of them over the summer, 100% free. You don't pay anything. You send your custodians, you send your supervisors, you send everybody. They're going to get 4 hours of professional development. They're going to have 25 to 50 vendors that are going to be there. They get breakfast and lunch. They get treated. They get treated the way that they deserve to be, which is like they're the top of their class, which they are, and a zero net cost. They just had one in Toms River on this past Tuesday, and they got the last one coming up next week in Gateway Regional down the southern part of the state. But I was amazing. It was just great, and I was blown away by it. And
I think for any facilities directors that are listening and watching, if you're not part of your organization in your state, shame on you.
Yeah,
because there is so much opportunity. And then once you get involved with your state, for one, it's a great therapy session, because you realize that everyone else is going through the same thing that you are, and you're not on an island. But if you get the opportunity to network out of state and see things like that and bring them back to your state, just ideas, and see the way they're cleaning, and from the first time we went to New Jersey, I mean, you always think, I was part of the board and the past president of the MFAA, and we always talked about the conference. When should we have it? We don't want to have it too close to school opening. We don't want to have it too close to school closing. We don't want to have it in a break period. We don't want to have it in the holidays. Well, these guys run it in New Jersey in a casino in March when the weather is the worst.
Yeah.
And they get a turnout like that.
Yeah.
Like, if you put a good product out there, people will come and be part of it. And I can't tell you how many times we've gone to that event when it was a snowstorm.
Oh, yeah.
And, and some guys had to leave because they had snow removal to do. And some guys, but it's quite a product that they put out. And that's one of the best networking opportunities that I've had through the MFAA and then down to New Jersey.
Yeah, I can remember when we've been going down there for almost 15 years together, off and on. And I can remember one of the years we were at the Taj down on the boardwalk, and you had one of the nice Trump Taj rooms decorated in pink and gold and just very wild. And you were on like the 28th floor or something, and it was snowing like the dickens. And I'm like, where's this coming from? And like, who's going to make it? It was the first day. And they had a packed house, and we've had to leave early because of weather. We've been hunkered down. The Harrah's was actually a storm shelter, so they took all of the residents in the low lying areas in one year we were there. Remember that they were charging $12 a night for any resident that needed a place to stay in case the high tide were to come up and basically wash their homes away potentially. So yeah, they pull it off. They do an amazing job. And on association involvement, we haven't even had to talk on this podcast about it. But the big news this year with the National School Plant Managers Association, that's positioned to do some big stuff this year with their new executive director. And I think that anybody that has looked and hasn't gotten involved in the past, or was hesitant, or has some viewpoint on what that organization's about, and has had any hesitancy, hey, they got someone at the helm now, Mr. Kenny Wirtz, executive director of both Mass Facilities and NSPMA, that he's doing some big things already in a short amount of time, and I see that as being the clearinghouse for national facility professionals, representation and professional development and everything else. So write it down, Charlie Brown, February 2024. Be in Nashville, be there, be square, because it's going to be a great event, because he puts on some. He puts it together, as you say. The PowerPoint. He does put it together.
He's the producer for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And I saw him take what he's done with MFAA. When he and I got involved early on, maybe a dozen members at a meeting, on a monthly meeting, and maybe 25 at the yearly conference, and we started to turn it around. Then he took it from there. I cannot take credit for that for sure. And we had, I remember coming home from a monthly meeting from 3 different locations. We had 35, 40 people at each location. When we broke into chapters, and it was like, wow, we went from one location for 12 guys for lunch to 3 or 4 locations with 35 people at a time. And then the event, we've gone from a nice little seaside resort in Dennisport, in a conference room with the extra mattresses stacked up against the wall, to the DCU Center and a Marriott Bonvoy hotel in downtown Worcester. And it's like, wow, what a ride. And I credit Kenny with the majority of that.
Well, he does the custodial thing like New Jersey MFAA does. And when COVID came, and he called me and asked me about hosting, because they didn't have a Zoom set up, and I did. He says, hey, can you host this? And I said, yeah. How many people do you think you're going to have? And he said, 500. I said, perfect. I've got a 500 seat Zoom account. And he called me like a week after he opened registration up, and he said, we get 750. And I said, all right, well, let me extend it to 1,000. And then he called me, 2 days before, and he says, we're at 1,100. And I said, all right, well, I got to get 1,500. And end up having 1,200 people online simultaneously for custodial training during COVID, which was amazing. So
and that's something that was all him. We didn't have any custodial training in the state other than our vendors here and there that were kind enough to do it for us. But he brought people together. And after doing it, after like the first year, the custodians would come and they would say, oh, why are we here? But after the first year, it was like custodians couldn't wait to get back to see custodians from other districts. And that they networked with the year before. And, at first we thought they were just coming for the free lunch and the coffee and donuts. But they realized the value in it. And I think that gets back to our original point of what can we do to attract people to our industry and to keep people. You need to treat them like professionals, and because they are. I mean, and I think what a lot of the custodians don't realize is that how many children depend on them. And how much their work provides a dry, clean, warm or cool place, safe place for them to be for at least 6 hours a day. And for so many students, it's the only safe place they'll be in that day.
And getting people to authentically understand and believe that And it starts with knowing how many kids you have in your district. How many conversations do I have when I ask someone, hey, how many kids you got in your district? And they go, oh, and it's like, you need to know that. I mean, Aubrey Kirkpatrick was the greatest example of like, holy mackerel. Like he has like a daily ticker of how many kids he had. Remember, he told us the number down to the student.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you sure about that? He's like, yeah, no, I got the number this morning. I was like, whoa, that's impressive. But that number means something. Those are names. Those are kids. Those are
that would be.
Yeah. Oh, look at you. Oh, you actually have the New Brunswick ASBO shirt. Yeah, I forgot you got one of those. We'll get into the more.
Thank you, Aubrey Kilpatrick.
Yeah.
But getting back to the numbers, when I went to I helped Kenny register in one of the first custodial trainings, and he's sitting there feverishly at the desk, counting the communities and on his computer, and he's like the mad scientist, and he's writing numbers down. So we go into the lunch, and all the custodians are together, and he puts a number up on the screen.
Yeah.
And it says 12,642.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what that number is? And everyone says no, because no one knows what that number is. I didn't know what that number was, and I was sitting next to him. He said, that's the number of students that you impact every day. And when you do it that way, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And so many of the custodians thought that, I just sweep the floor.
Yeah.
It's so much more than that. So much more. And they need to understand that and know that. And when you're building that professionalism, that's how we're going to retain people.
Yep.
The time off is nice. The vacation time is nice. The pay is marginal. But, you're there as a professional and you're doing a job that really means something to a lot of people.
Yeah, you hit it. That's what I wanted you. I wanted you to hit that secret sauce. I knew we were going to get to it. Before we continue, Pete Cantone, good to see you guys back on track. And Classic Ken, Pete in New York, the awesome license plate holder, holding it down in the great state of New York. We're happy to be back. It's been a while, and thanks for staying up with us, my friend.
The only guy I know that has an infinitesimal amount of data.
Yes, he does have an infinitesimal amount of data. We love hearing about it. And then we got our good friend Z up in Salem. The boys are back. I feel whole again. We do too, Z, and we've missed you, my friend. So thanks for listening in with us and joining along for the ride. Hit point on that. You showed the New Brunswick ASBO shirt and Aubrey Kirkpatrick, and we talked about the trip, I think, in one of the episodes because we did it in February. But there's this phenomenon happening in the great state of Missouri. It's happening in many places, but it's definitely happening in the great state of Missouri specifically. Whereas there's this thing known as More Paul. And I think we need to talk about it. I think we need to get this all out in the open because I got to be honest with you. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it all happened. It started with me bringing you on a trip to, was the first trip to St. Charles?
St. Joe.
Yeah. So I take you to St. Charles and we go out there and you were there. You were going along for the ride. It was just one of our kind of go along trips. And by the time I left, everybody was talking about bringing you back and having More Paul. And then we went to Kansas City and there was More Paul. And then all of a sudden now you're like, I think you're looking at property out there because you're like a fan favorite. I mean, you're going out there with me in a couple weeks for a week. We're going to chart a course across the state. We're going to make sure we stop in and see our friend Charlie Branham for a little bit, but we're going to go to a couple different school districts and we're going to end up in, I've been plotting the course for this, by the way. We're going to cover a lot of ground.
I'm really trying to find someone with hunting land out there, just so you know.
Yeah. I didn't realize how big the state was until I started zigzagging, St. Louis to out by Kansas City to California to Memphis to all these
California,
different places.
Missouri, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna be covering a lot of territory out there. But you've really Missouri has embraced Paul and you've embraced them and you're going back. You're going this month with me. You're going in September with me. And what I've found is not just the hunting piece, just the camaraderie and the care and the similarities. I think that's what I think a lot of folks, when you're talking about, state organizations and getting involved in everything, what I find in your time in Missouri is there's not a lot different in the state of Missouri being a facility professional as there is in Massachusetts. Different stories, different
Right.
customers, but very similar days, very similar, laughable. You can't make this stuff up. Story time, but all around just awesome people.
Yeah,
Um,
and a lot of the stories when you talk to guys from different states in different areas, you could take your senior custodian at North High and put a name, put a Missouri name to it when you hear a story coming from,
yeah,
St. Louis High School or whatever it would be. There's so much similarity in what we do, and I think the difference is well, for me and you, we're so welcomed there,
yeah,
and they're so generous with their outpouring of welcoming us and just
yeah,
camaraderie.
yeah. It's nothing short of extraordinary. I have to tell you, I went out to I had the honor to get Casey Houseman at St. Joe's, which that's actually the home of the Pony Express in Hilliard,
Yeah,
St. Joe's, Missouri, and so I had the honor to go out and do an opening talk for his custodial staff for their custodial award ceremony. They actually have an awards program that all their schools are registered in for the cleanest schools, and it's a big deal. And there's money, they get the gift cards, and there's a breakfast and lunch and a true appreciation for the day. And so as my schedule would have it, I literally was on that first flight out you did with me, the JetBlue flight out to Kansas City, walk by the airport barber, which we'll talk about, and then you touch down like 8:30 in the morning, and then I had to literally fly out that night. So I literally flew from Boston to Kansas City, had to go to this place to the district, and then fly home that night. And when I was telling Casey about what my schedule had to be, he says, "Don't worry about anything. Just get to the airport, and I'll take care of the rest." And sure enough, I got off the plane. Casey's there waiting with a car. He drives me to the school. He gives me a full tour of the district, takes me around. Got to meet his family. Had his wife and kids meet at one of the schools that we were touring. Like just the roll out the red carpet care is just like, it's amazing. Like, makes you feel good. Like you're just
and
like,
that's
oh
that's
my
the
God.
thing. They're not afraid to cross that professional personal line with people. They become so much of an open book and
Yeah,
friendlier, and you see people in a different light that way. I mean, how many people do you know that we could talk to, and after knowing them, at that level for
yeah,
a short period of time, says, "Geez, I'd always on my bucket list. I'd always wanted to go to Fenway Park."
bingo.
And now it's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah,
You said that to the right guy. I'm
right.
lucky enough that my wife's family has had Red Sox season ticket, a partial package of Red Sox season tickets for 40 years.
Yeah,
And I said, I can make that happen next season. I said,
yeah,
now here we are, August 28th on a Monday night, me and
yeah,
you and two guys from
yeah,
Missouri are going
yeah,
to, America's most beloved ballpark.
yeah, yeah. No, it is. It's and I think that's important. I think that's one of the things that's often overlooked. And I'm very comfortable in saying that. I don't think many people are going to listen to me that are that are vendors and anything, that the power of relationship, it goes beyond the broom, it goes beyond the wrench, it goes beyond the spreadsheet, it goes beyond all that stuff. Like, I've had especially right now, I've had so many people that I've literally just sent an email that just says, software or me speaking, and whatever it is, everything aside, are you okay?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? And it's not, are you okay with, your school budget? It's like, are you okay with life? Is everything all right? And we have to be more cognizant of that with everybody and everything. And if you don't get into that discussion, if somebody's just saying, yeah, from 8 to 2, da 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 da, but they're two to whatever time when they're home is terrible, or they're dealing with some tragic stuff. You take it personally, you get all that stuff. It's better to know and to get that personal side and understanding, so that they can say, hey, I'm dealing with some stuff. I was dealing with some stuff, as you know. I had a little bit of a health scare in the last week, and my mind has been consumed with some things of every possible. I did the thing that I tell people not to do. I worried about the 99 things that it could be, and not the one thing that it was, which was nothing too bad. And so,
But we learned in New Brunswick that if you're not fine, don't say I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
People need to not hide that was one of Aubrey's big points. Everyone says I'm
Yeah.
fine, I'm
Yeah.
fine, I'm fine. Well, you're
Yeah.
not. Not everybody's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's a perfect segue, because that was, I think, I think about the trips that we make, um, and we can talk about the Be Awesome bus progress as that comes along for 2024, because we should have the RAP ABA. Albert Bass Associates is doing a mock-up of the potential Winnebago World Tour bus for 2024. We're stepping it up a whole nother level. But as a kickoff, I think we've had a lot of great trips.
Yep.
But I think this whirlwind tour to New Brunswick last month that was one of the tops. I think it was one of the tops from getting to spend some genuine time with each other and throwing Kenny and Roberto into the mix.
Yeah.
Getting to stay in the cabin. And what we did was Paul and Kenny were speaking at the EPMA conference with Jim Rainey, who's executive director up there. Is a phenomenal, just amazing human being, retired facility director, Waterville Public Schools. Actually, my first on-site in my career in 1996 was to Jim Rainey's office. So I've known him my whole career. And so you guys were in Waterville, Maine. I was at Assabet Valley doing the keynote for the MAVA conference for all the vocational schools, same day, 28th of June. And Bobby Chavs, the facility director there, he was taking a couple of days off. I said, hey, why don't you drive up to Maine with me? We're going to meet up with Paul and Ken, and we'll stay in a cabin in Maine, and then we'll get up at 3:00 in the morning the next day. We'll drive 300 miles to Edmundston, New Brunswick. We'll go to 5 hours of sessions and all this stuff with the New Brunswick ASBO crew. And I wanted to see Aubrey's initiative, and then we'll get some poutine. That's important. Yep. And we'll drive back to the cabin in Maine, and we'll drive home on the 30th. And it was like, what was amazing was I've told probably 500 people. That's probably an exaggeration. I've probably told 50 people that itinerary, and they're like, what? And it's like, I told you guys, and it's like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. And then we went, I wouldn't say unannounced, but there was no agenda. We weren't on there. And again, we're welcomed with open arms by Aubrey and Guy and the crew in New Brunswick. And they just couldn't be nicer to us in involving us.
It was the funniest thing, because we got in the truck at like 3:30 in the morning, something like that. After all of the driving and the event and everything from the day before, literally on like 4 hours of sleep, we all got up, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, get in the truck. We start driving up 95, getting pelted by Maine mosquitoes. You can barely see through the windshield. And we get across the border, and we're driving along, and we see this huge statue of a cow on the side of the road. And I was like, hey, wouldn't it have been cool if we got some Canadian steaks and brought them back for the grill? And I said, I think one of us, it might have been me, it was like, yeah, but we didn't bring a cooler. And we walk into the event. And he's like, "Hey, here's a cooler for you guys." And they gave us each a cooler.
They gave us each a cooler bag.
It was like as if they knew they were in the car with us, that we wanted to bring steaks back from the event. But yeah, it was it was that's what we were very fortunate to have. That we just, granted, we show up in Canada from Massachusetts. I think people are going to feel bad that we went up there, and otherwise, they're not going to lock us out. But they knew we were coming. But it wasn't like you say, there wasn't an agenda. We just kind of showed up. We sat down. We got to listen about Aubrey's Project Shield, which I hope that takes off globally. I think that for those that are interested, Aubrey Kirkpatrick is the business manager in Moncton, New Brunswick. He's the vice president for New Brunswick ASBO, and he's running for vice president of ASBO International. Wild underachiever with all of this efforts that he's doing. I actually don't know how he has time to paddleboard and surf and one wheel and disc golf and build disc golf course. The guy is just amazing, all the stuff he's doing. But he had found, and he has had in his 23 some odd year career in Moncton, he's had situations where faculty members and faculty members abused their position and put young students in difficult positions, whether it was sexual exploitation or sexual harassment or other things like that. And it's happened and it's happening. And it's, instead of him taking a closed eye and saying I'm a business manager, he and his team of others put together this Project Shield, which is awareness, bringing awareness and bringing the see something, say something models and a whole bunch of things together to try to minimize any sort of sexual exploitation of children in any environment. And he shared it with his New Brunswick ASBO for the first time, and it was his first keynote. And he told me about it in February. I wasn't going to miss it, and I'm glad I didn't, because his passion and how he delivered that was extraordinary. I mean, it was powerful. I mean, it hit you, right? Yeah. I mean, he hit you with the good stuff, and it wasn't, it was pure emotion. And he retold the story about losing both his parents within a week, and some of the stuff that he's battled with personally, which is that you got to share the personal stuff along with the professional stuff so people know where you're coming from. No, that was an amazing trip. That was just
and so the return trip, we decide that we're going to find that butcher, that beef place, and we're going to buy Canadian beef.
Yep.
I mean, it was right in the side of the road, right? So we get off at the exit, and it's a good 8 miles into the woods, wrapped around before you came back to the highway where you could see it. And we found the butcher. We bought some nice ribeyes, 4 nice ribeyes. Most of the people in there spoke French, but we got our point across, and we got the ribeyes and fiddleheads. Yeah. And then after we purchased it, we decide to find out if we can legally take it back across the border into the States. And every time we Google something, we got a different. You have to have the original receipt one. Google said you can't bring it in. You can't bring beef in from another country. So we said we'll just go to the border and figure it out. And as Josh does, he's very honest that way. When the Border Patrol officer said to him, "What are you bringing back from Canada?" and he said, "Dinner." He said, "I've got ribeye steaks and fiddleheads." And the guy says, "Like in the truck?" He says, "Yeah, in a cooler. We're going to bring them back and cook them on the grill." And the border officer says, "Is Canadian beef better than U.S. beef?" And he kind of looked at him and said, "I don't know." And when he walked back with our passports to check them into the computer, he looked back and kind of went, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh my." So we just went to Canada and bought beef that must have come out of Michigan. Yeah. I think it was exported to Canada. We thought it was a big deal. Bought it back into the States.
Yeah, that customs agent was the real deal. I mean, he was out of the booth. He was all business. Yeah. Which was cool, because I mean, it was funny because and that's again, that whole honesty is the best policy. It's like, what was I going to like? I didn't know if it was legal or not. The worst thing that could happen is they take the steaks, but I'd rather them take the steaks and me say that I have them than to be pulled over on the side of the road like the car in front of us was, and have them go through the car and find steaks and it's illegal and I didn't claim it and all that other stuff. And he was a good sport about it. And apparently now I know that we can bring steaks back from Canada, whether they're better or not. We can at least have the story that we brought them back.
That's right. And I think, once he was out of uniform later on, kicking it back with some of his buddies, he was laughing about that. These guys went all the way to Canada to buy steak and bring it back to the U.S.
Well, it was like, he's like, "How long have you been here?" And I'm like, "Including driving, 7 hours." He's like, "So you just drove up here from Old Town, Maine to Edmundston to get steak?" And I was like, "That poutine too," which that poutine was to die for.
Yeah. So think about it. The conference, poutine, cigar store, quick stop in the casino,
Timmy Hortons
steaks, and back.
And Timmy Hortons. We had to do
Tim Hortons. That's right. You can't forget Tim Hortons.
So that we covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time. And the what was amazing with that trip was it seemed like the smoke from all the wildfires, which God bless those the folks in Quebec. I mean, this was 18 million acres or some. I mean, some astronomical amount. I was reading this morning. It's like 507 fires are currently wildfires are still out of control in Quebec. But I was expecting to not see anything. Right. I was like, and there was smoke, but it was high up. It's amazing to see what our world does as far as, we were in thick smoke in Massachusetts, and we were just minutes away from the Quebec border, and you wouldn't have known there was a forest fire. You just thought it was overcast skies or high clouds. It was kind of interesting. It was a little eerie, but it was kind of an interesting experience.
Yeah, and if you could get up at sunrise, you could see it coming across the lake.
Yeah,
and then moving through.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, I did too.
At sunrise,
I had a window view. Yeah. So, no, that was a great. That was just such a great learning experience, a great trip, and it was great to have that camaraderie with you guys to just cut up and talk about things and tell stories. Pete Cantone actually wants to correct you with regards to his amount of data. He has the Empire State worth of data. That's the new one.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's even more. That's an even greater
for the correction.
Yes. So, but no, we wanted to get back on. We wanted to share some stuff. We've got, as you say, Paul, we got a lot of stuff going on in the back half of the year. I mean, you and I have. We've got some trips. We've got some projects. We've got some work. We've got some fun. First and foremost, next month we're heading to Missouri for a better part of a week. Which, like I say, I'm plotting this course, and I've got my Yahoo Maps all printed out and ready to go. So everybody makes fun of me because I use, what do I use? MapQuest.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys make? Yeah. So
you and 3 other people, you still use a MapQuest. So you wonder why the data's no good.
Well, hey, listen, I beat all of them.
Pete, he's got a bungalow's worth of data coming from MapQuest. You got the Empire State, he's got a bungalow.
Yeah, beat up bungalow at that. But hey, if you set waypoints, you get to the border, you turn left. You get to the border, you turn right. Which we're going back to New Brunswick again.
Yeah.
Which we got to plan and plot that course for next January, February. We got that on the books. But we've got some exciting stuff.
I can't guarantee this, but we have a special guest arriving here in Massachusetts shortly, a member of my wife's family that's come all the way from Alaska, who happens to be a state representative in the state of Alaska. And I believe, if I've got the story right, he's the chairman of the education committee. So we might pull in a guest soon. That's
when is that?
They should be touching down at 7:00 tonight.
Wow.
So they're gonna be here for a few days, and I don't know, maybe Saturday afternoon, sitting out by the barbecue having a few brews, I might be able to talk him into being a guest for us. So we'll see. I don't want to promise more than I can deliver.
No, I mean I like that. Maybe I'll come down there and hit that one off with a live if I'm in town. That'd be great. See, we get stuff that just flies off, like things just happen.
Just happens.
Quick, it just happens. But no, we're going to be working on some guests moving forward. We're going to get back on track. We apologize for those that are. We are so grateful for. We've had thousands of. I got to get the number, but I think it's over 10,000 downloads of our podcast, and people still download and are listening to it, even during this 4-month hiatus. And we've kept going. We got to get back online. We're going to work to stay more consistent with this. If you want to be on the podcast, drop me an email, josh@beawesome.com, BEAUSM. Let's talk about it. Let's see if it's a good fit. And we can see about having you on the podcast and talk about anything. We can talk about anything that's great that's going on in your district, great that's going on in your career. If you've got the secret sauce of how do we get full staff happy, staying committed and feeling fulfilled, come on, let's talk about it. That's what it's all about. So, Paul, I appreciate you. I messaged you yesterday and said, what time do you got available to get on a podcast to just get us back on track? Sometimes you just have to do this, right? Sometimes you just have to stop talking about it, just do it, and whatever happens, happens. So appreciate you coming back online. Let's figure out how to get this thing moving on all cylinders again. And maybe we'll do an episode. I'm going to be on the road here pretty soon. I'll be down in North Carolina with the boys in the next week or so. Maybe we'll get the Owl Cam, which this is really cool. We got an Owl Cam 360 degree, the thing I use in Albuquerque now for our in-person round table stuff. So we got 360 degree camera. So thank you for that.
That was a great K-12, purchase. Getting that.
Yeah,
nice
job. Bingo. Yeah, it's gonna be a long time winner. So that's gonna be some fun. So I know what you're gonna ask me, and I'm gonna let
You
you
got a shout out? Where's your shout out?
Yeah,
Let's hear it. It's been a long time.
So I have a shout out, and I have to talk about why the shout out. Every once in a while, I go outside of the maintenance and operations side of the house, and I'm doing this because I'm really excited to have the opportunity to get down to Florida in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be able to talk to approximately 1,500 Smile providers, school bus drivers. And so I've been doing a bit of homework because it's been a number of months since I've gotten in front of a large audience of school bus transportation professionals, as I like to call them, or Smile providers, because in many cases they're the first and last Smile. These kids we talk about, that safe, healthy space that these kids are in 6 hours a day, 5 times a week. The first and last Smile that they're getting a lot of times is by that school bus professional. And so I did a search and I found this story, which is a school bus driver saves student from getting hit by a car. And when I read this, I was like, how does that happen, right? How does that happen today? People need to see the big yellow bus and the red flashing lights and all this stuff. And when I was doing some homework, it actually happens quite often, a lot more often than you'd think. So New Carlisle, Ohio, an Ohio school bus driver is being hailed as a hero for saving a 7th grade student from getting hit by a car as he went to exit the bus. The 7th grader's family is grateful for Tecumseh local school bus driver April Wise after her quick thinking saved her son's life. For what she did that day, we definitely appreciate it, the boy's father said. School district officials, law enforcement, and state representative also expressed their thanks for Wise's brave actions when she was honored with an award Monday. It's a testament to what things are that we should do, the things that we actually do, said State Representative Bernie Willis. Wise can be seen checking her mirrors, paying close attention to what's happening around her as she pulled the bus to a stop in video of the Thursday incident posted to social media by the school district. The bus driver even knew the exact student that was getting off at the stop. He is one of my quickest students to get off and on the bus. He's super quick. But Wise was quicker, grabbing the student by his backpack before he got down the steps and saving him from getting hit by a car that comes barreling into frame moments later. The only thing that went through my brain was to keep him from getting off the bus, the driver said. Now, the video of Wise saving the student will be used as an example during training of what is expected of drivers when caring for a bus full of students. This goes far beyond what I imagined to happen. So I am very emotional, Wise said. I don't deserve it, but I'm glad it's bringing awareness and stuff. Hopefully more people will take it into consideration. Wise says she always has to be on high alert for her bus route because drivers consistently choose to ignore school buses on the road. So April Wise, thank you. The video you can find on News Channel 10 in Ohio. It's pretty scary. And I share this story, and I'm going to share a little bit more about our school transportation professionals because they're wildly underpaid for the job that they do, and they go to it every single day. And they're not just turning the wheel and pushing the pedal. They're taking care of up to 60 some odd kids on any given day and dealing with the outside world that could come in at any point in time. And sadly, do things like run over a student that's just trying to go home. And so
they transport our most precious cargo.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So that was why I wanted to share that one today, because I'm doing some prep work to get back into the transportation space, which I love to work with those folks and to talk to them. And no warmer place in August than Florida. So I may be doing.
I don't know. Phoenix might rival it right now.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen. So I haven't been paying attention because it's been so darn hot up here. We're finally getting some comfort. This humidity up here has been just crazy. I've been living in the air conditioning and just getting work done. But yeah, so that's our shout out for this week. Thanks to Pete Cantone and Z for chiming in and being with us on this ride, and for the others that sat along. And as always, you got questions, comments, throw them into our chat. Let me just check before we go, Paul, because our comment section on our app, we haven't been here for so long that the tool that we use for doing the streaming is no longer in like business. It's they changed names. So that was part of the reason why I was having some difficulty with getting online here. I was trying to figure out who this company was. So Yeah, no, I think I got all the questions covered and everything. So that'll do it for us. Paul, any last closing words?
Everybody just stay cool and keep you cool.
That's it. Stay
Yep.
cool and keep you cool. That's good words to live by in the attic. Now get down there and
I
spend
got to
some
go
time
down to
with
the
your
pool
kiddos.
now.
Yeah, go have some fun in the pool. Appreciate you doing this, Paul. Go enjoy the rest of your day. And those that listen and like it, please 5-star rating and review go a long way. The reviews are huge. People need to know how the experience is. We really appreciate it if we haven't earned your 5-star rating and review. So anything less than that, give Paul a shout at paul@beawesome.com, and he'll be more than happy to take your considerations, complaints, comments, and things. Any praises, just go ahead and send it to me, and I'll gladly accept those. But no, we really appreciate everybody riding along with us for the last couple of years with this kind of fun project that we do. We like to just get on and share all the awesome that's going on in the world. We also share about things that are concerning and how we can fix it, because that's one of the things we can't ignore it and put blinders on. But we will be back here hopefully in the next week or so with the next episode. Paul and I are going to be on the road in August, so I think we'll probably have some shenanigans and episodes that we'll be recording from out in the field. And again, appreciate everybody riding along with us. So everybody have a great day. Stay cool, keep you cool, as Paul says. And if you can be anything, be awesome. We'll see you.
Bye.